Give me a D and a G. It's the Dawg Gus Show. It's the Dawg Gus Show.
Welcome to the Dawg Gus Show.
Now on Be Kind Radio.
Absolutely.
What's going on?
Well, we're going to talk with Mr. Jackson Reed tonight.
Hi, Jackson. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah. What do you give us a quick intro? Who's Jackson Reed right now?
Yeah, well, I am a musician and a podcaster. I am the front man for the Calgary-based group Jackson Reed and the Silverbirds, and we sort of take our classic rock influences and combine them with modern pop to create catchy tracks and an exciting live show. We just released our new EP called Live in 25, which was recorded on stage when we got to open up for Nazareth this past October. And then besides that, I'm also the host of the podcast Guess That Record, which has featured some big stars like Andy Summers, Neil Giraldo, Dominic Miller, and many more.
That's awesome. Yeah. I'm intrigued by that podcast style. Where you get 20 questions about a album, and then they have to guess it. And Dawg said he could do it in 10.
I could.
Fair enough.
Depending where we go with the album.
If it's 90s, I'm probably faster.
Oh, if it's 80s, I'll crush it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
We'll get to that, Jackson.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you where you're calling home these days, which you already told us. He's set up in Calgary, Alberta.
That's right.
Not a bad place to be.
Yeah. How would you describe your sound with the band in one sentence?
I think energetic. Like we're big on like tracks. I think even our most our more kind of serious songs, I think, still have a big sound to them. So we like to be exciting, and we like our songs to be able to translate live, and that was a big reason why we wanted to put out a live record, which was released this past January. So yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I noticed you did a cover of Little Red Corvette. That's pretty ballsy, mister.
I've been told that a few times, but that song was like, before we recorded that song, I was listening to it a lot at the time, and I kind of realized, like, that is like the exact kind of sound that I want for us, right? Like, it's got the kind of lush pop textures to it, but then it's also got some big guitar and a catchy chorus and everything like that. So it just felt right for us to do that song, and it's become a big part of our live show as well. I always find that it never fails to get the crowd worked up. So yeah, we've enjoyed performing that song a lot.
Are you a big Prince fan?
I am.
Pretty talented guy.
Moderately talented.
Yeah. I actually, on the podcast, I got to interview Susan Rogers, who was Prince's engineer from Purple Rain to Sign of the Times.
Nice.
And that was a great interview. Susan's awesome. So that was really cool to get to speak with her, because she was with him pretty much every day for a 5-year period, pretty much. So yeah.
Yeah, because Prince had a lot to do with every album, right? So he would be probably there the whole time.
Oh yeah. And just never stopped working, right? Like she would have to go on tour with him, of course, like they were recording a lot of those concerts, but occasionally he would be like, I got a song idea, I want to go into the studio after the show. So she would have to be there, ready to go if he was up for recording. So yeah, it was pretty interesting to hear, just her entire story, because she's a great storyteller. She ended up becoming a teacher at the Berklee School of Music. So she's pretty smart and has a lot of interesting things to say, for sure.
Super cool. Yeah, we're both huge Prince fans, so that makes sense.
Yes, we are. That's why I said it was ballsy to cover Pink.
Yeah.
To cover him. And when did music first become a real thing for you?
Well, I learned, like, when I was really little, I got enrolled in like just kind of general music classes to kind of learn how to read music and that sort of thing, which I think kind of maybe was what put it in me from an early age. But when I discovered the Beatles at 11, that was really like what sort of opened my mind and really got me interested in it. And then once I got into high school, that was sort of when I started listening to more music and just being like, this is what I'm good at, this is what I like, and this is what I want to pursue. And just have been working to make it happen ever since I finished high school. And I think really though, in the last like 5 or 6 years is when, we're finally starting to see some progress being made, and yeah, so that's kind of the short version of the entire journey there.
Nice. What were you listening to growing up?
Well, I've always been drawn to, 60s, 70s, 80s. I don't know why. That's just something about the sound and the personalities and the, just everything about that music I was drawn to. Started with the Beatles, and then Led Zeppelin was a big group for me when I was like, really starting to take it seriously. And, Jimmy Page really was a big influence on guitar. And then when I discovered Bruce Springsteen, when I was 19, that was around the time when I was kind of like, oh, it's a pain to put a band together, so I'm just gonna, be myself and do it solo. And so Bruce was big. Just as I was starting to become a vocalist, I really took a liking to, how he sings and how he performs and everything like that. Yeah, I've got a lot of, I could be here all day talking about like who my favorite artists are, but those are definitely some of the ones that, played a big impact on me for sure.
Yeah, we could do the same. So I think when you love music so much, I think keep going on and on and on about it, right?
That's why we do this.
Yeah,
That's
that's why we're doing what you're doing, and this is why you're doing what you're doing. So your first performance, how did it go?
Ooh, well, the very first time I like performed on stage, like with my guitar, was at a venue in Calgary called the Ironwood, which we'll be playing there again this summer. But they used to do, I don't know if they still do it or not, but they used to do like an open blues jam every Saturday down at the Ironwood. And so I went there almost every weekend for probably like 2 years. And that was like my first time like on stage with my guitar. And I think those jams sort of helped me, get up on stage and get used to performing in front of people. And then, then eventually we got playing proper gigs where, we were doing a full set list and everything like that. That was really the beginning of performing live for me.
What would you say separates you from other artists right now?
Well, I think the, being able to go out and play a show, I think is something that is unique for us. We take a lot of our influences, of course, are very good performers. So Bruce Springsteen, Prince, and the like. And I just find that there's not a lot of artists that put on a show with that kind of energy, especially locally here in Calgary. So, like being able to channel, guys like Springsteen up on stage, I think is something that you don't really see a lot of these days. And that's something we, want to try and do with our live set. And also just, I think, being a, more of a rock band and really leaning into those pop elements is also something that I feel like, you don't really see a lot from a band these days. So that's another thing that I think we bring to the table for sure.
So walk us through your songwriting process.
It usually starts with the chorus for me. I as I mentioned, we like to be catchy. We like to have a lot of hooks in our songs, and the chorus for me is the part that you've got to nail. And so for me, I tend to try and find a chorus first and a good title and everything like that, and then I work backwards from there. So most of the time, that's kind of how I operate, is I start with the chorus and then build the rest of the song from there.
Nice. And is there a song you're most proud of, and why is that?
Well, on our new EP, Live in 25, there's a song that we did called Warmth of July. And that one was, I'm quite happy with that song because it was really my first attempt at writing a song that was very much about Calgary. One thing about Bruce Springsteen that I've always appreciated about him is how, his music, or a lot of his songs, are very clearly set in New Jersey, where he's from. But at the same time, he can make it relatable enough that you can almost like picture it being anywhere. And I had never really attempted that with Calgary before. And so I was thinking of like, what is Calgary? What are we known for? And of course, the Stampede is probably the biggest thing we're known for. And so, it was just kind of taking images of the Stampede and, giving it almost like a John Hughes 80s movie kind of feel to it. And so it's, I think if you've been to Calgary, if you've been here, you'll understand the references. But I also think it's, it's got images to it that, you don't have to be from here to appreciate what's going on in that song. So, yeah, that was pretty cool. And the fact that the very first time we played it live is what you hear on the record. So that was, that was pretty cool to be able to debut a song in front of 2,000 people like that.
Yeah.
My biggest takeaway from Calgary was Chinooks.
Yep.
Just I was out there, so it's funny because we went up there to play hockey. And we're out on the outdoor rinks, and we go in between periods to warm up and stuff and get your feet warm around the stove. All the teams. The team you're playing against, you're sitting right beside them, warming up your feet. We went back out to finish off the game, and the ice was all water.
Really?
A Chinook had blown through, and the ice was like this much water.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Wow,
It makes the winters a little more bearable than places like Edmonton or Winnipeg.
Winterpeg, yeah.
Or Ottawa.
Ottawa's too bad. Ottawa's not that great either. So
Yeah, we get cold, man.
Yeah, it does.
Still not spring yet. I don't know what's going on.
It's just,
Yeah. Did you ask or did I ask?
it's your turn.
Okay. Any track that fans connect with more than you expected?
Well, we did a song a couple of years ago called The Walk, which after it came out, I think, this happens with all artists, but sometimes you do songs where after it comes out and after you have some time between writing, recording, and releasing it, where you just go, this, I don't know if this really represents me, or this isn't, I'm not a huge fan of this, right? And The Walk for me was that kind of song. But it's been one that a lot of people have come up to me afterwards and said, I really like that one. So yeah, that's one that's kind of, I've always been sort of surprised when people say, I really like that song. Because to me, I think we've done better than that. But
it's hard to tell sometimes, right? Like you're really stoked about a song and it doesn't really go over with the song. You thought, well, it's going to be okay. And it turns out to be one of your biggest fan favorites.
You just never know. That's why you put it out, man.
Yeah, seriously. That's why you do it, right? So where do your best ideas come from?
Listening to other artists. I think like that's one way for me to kind of get like inspired to write something, is hearing an artist and going, I want to do something, with that kind of vibe to it. So yeah, definitely listening to other music is the way that really gets me going most of the time.
Yeah, I bet. Do you write from your personal experience or storytelling? Is it because you're getting from other artists, but you're getting ideas? So when you write, is it more personal or is it kind of a story?
It depends on the song. I definitely have had songs that, I included my own thoughts or my own experiences in. I think a good example is actually off of Live in 25, the song Did I Miss Out, which is a song that, I think really speaks to, sometimes I feel frustrated about sort of where I am, and I wish I was further along in my career, and that's in that song I'm sort of speaking about my thoughts there. Other songs, I mean, Warmth of July is definitely a fictional story. I think like, yeah, a lot of songs that I write as well are stories for sure that, I didn't necessarily experience that, but I think that's the great thing about songwriting, is that you can, even if you haven't experienced something, you can still write about it.
Yeah, that makes sense too.
So how do you deal with creative blocks? How do you get through that?
Well, actually, it's funny because I recently kind of had a period where I was having trouble writing, and not even really writing to begin with. The EP came out in January. So, pretty much after we played that show, and then, getting the EP ready for release, and then releasing the EP and trying to get it on radio and just really marketing it hard. I was so focused on that I just I didn't even really want to write anything for a bit. And I find that if you've got nothing, it's best to just kind of wait until you feel the spark again. And what kind of got me going recently, I met up with the drummer from our band. His name's Nathan, and our engineer and producer whose name's Kenton, and we got together and just to see if we could come up with some ideas, and we did, and that has kind of got the creative juices flowing again. That's, I think, like, getting opinions from other people is not a bad way to get through those moments when you aren't really feeling anything creatively.
Yeah, that makes great sense as well. I mean, it's I always find whenever you're thinking about something too much, it doesn't produce anything. So you got to kind of let it go for a minute.
That's why I don't produce anything. I think too much.
You do think a lot. Studio versus live.
Well, I mean, the good thing is on Live in 25, it's a bit of both, because there are both studio tracks and live tracks on that record. It's tough to say. I mean, I honestly, if I had to be put on the spot here, I would say live, just because it's great to get in front of an audience and show off your craft, and there's just something about playing music in front of people that's really cool. So I think if I had to pick one or the other, I'd probably go with live for sure.
Now, when you're writing songs and setting them up and stuff, does it ever come to your mind to say, okay, we got to be careful that we can do this and reproduce it live as opposed to in the studio?
Yeah, no, I definitely do think about that for sure. And in fact, sometimes we we'll change the entire arrangement to make it sound better live. In fact, actually, we did on the new EP, we have a song called Do You Feel the Way I Do, which is one of the studio tracks. And it's got a very kind of synth pop sound to it. And we played it live for the first time back in March when we had a show here in Calgary. And it was interesting because in rehearsal, we played it kind of closer to how it sounds on the record. But after the first rehearsal, I was just sort of like, this just wasn't really clicking. And so I came up with some ideas to, just change up the arrangement and make it like punch through a little better when in that live setting. But yeah, when we played it at the show, it felt really good, and the crowd seemed to appreciate that. So yeah, no, you definitely do have to be mindful of like, how is this going to sound live, and can we, pull it off live? And so that is definitely something to take into consideration for sure.
Yeah, and what's your process once a song is finished?
Well, I mean, once it's finished, then you get ready for release at that point for me, and just start planning out the release rollout, filming videos, making sure your radio and press contacts are all there and everything like that. And I mean, that's really for me, like the big shift once you finish a song is like, how are we going to promote this thing to get it in front of as many people as possible?
Sure. Now, I want to circle back to the podcast, because we do a podcast, and I'm kind of curious as to how you came up with the idea of your podcast.
For sure, yeah. So it was the summer of 2021 when I kind of had the idea to start a podcast. And I wanted to try and have some sort of unique angle to it. I think, like, one inspiration may have been Nardwar, actually, because I always, it's always interesting to see him, pull out a record, and the person he's interviewing is so blown away that he knows about that record, and hearing them talk about the record and everything. And so like, it was just, once I kind of had that idea of doing like a 20 questions game show almost, sort of, it all came together. And then from there it's just a matter of finding guests. And the first guest that we had, who was like, a legit name, was Jim Valance. And that was the second episode. And Jim Valance, of course, is Bryan Adams' co-writer. So he helped Bryan write a ton of those big hits, and he's worked with a bunch of other artists. And then, it got a little easier every time I'd go and make a pitch to get a guest on. And at this point, it has become a very important part of the brand, because we're getting to interact with a lot of big names in the music industry. And that's, at this point, that's really the reason I'm doing it.
Super cool. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I do too.
Yeah. Is a CD considered an album?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, Live in 25 is actually available on CD on our Bandcamp page. So, exactly. If you're listening to this and you want to support us, that's the best way to do it, is to get the CD for sure. But
So
I do
early
love
on-
I
Sorry,
do
go
love
ahead.
vinyl as well. Like anything physical, I'm a fan of for sure.
But both are albums, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, see? So Dawg and I long ago have a bit like this is before we even interviewed anybody. It was like we started the podcast similar to you in the sense that we had somewhat of an idea that we're going to go up and talk about music, and then someone DM'd us that you guys do interviews, and that's where this has kind of started to snowball into a podcast that we interview artists. So the thing is I said, I think I have it on CD, and he's like, that's not an album, and I disagreed with him, and you are correct. It is an album because they're both, full. The album portion of it is not the physical copy; it's the art that's on it.
Mhm.
Would you say that's a good explanation, Jackson?
Yeah, I mean, it's the album is the album. There are different mediums to play the album off of. There's vinyl, there's CD, cassette tapes, 8-track, whatever you want. So,
Track. Well, I disagree, but that's fine.
you can't.
Yes, I can. It's my opinion, and I can be
No.
as I want.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
But if there's evidence,
No, I still disagree.
okay, you'd be a good defense lawyer.
Yeah, I sure would.
Best show
I
you
disagree.
is your best show you've ever played the live album?
That's definitely the biggest one for sure. We've been trying to get a show like that for a very long time, and it just worked out that we were able to develop a relationship with the promoter at the River Creek Casino in Edmonton. Last year, it was just finally looking like we were going to get something put together with them, and it happened to be the show with Nazareth, which is so cool because, of course, Nazareth is a very successful band that's been around for a long time. So it looks great for us to be able to share the stage with them, and just very eye-opening for us to get to be in a room that big. Like I said, it's 2,000 people. There's video screens, and it just it was really cool to kind of get that experience for the first time ever, and that's why. I knew we needed to capture the show in some way, whether, just in terms of finding more opportunities, being able to have video of us there was super important. But then I had the idea of let's skip the studio time and let's just do a full recording of this set and put it out as both an EP and as a concert film, which is on our YouTube channel.
Great idea.
What's your favorite venue so far?
Well, the one that we've played a lot in Calgary that we are always happy to play at is a place called the King Eddie, which it's right downtown there in Calgary, and it's a very historic venue. I think it was initially built over 100 years ago, but then it got pretty seedy over time, and then probably 10 years ago they opened up this new building right across the street called the National Music Center, which is a very big museum here in Calgary that's all about music preservation and music education, and they bought the building and incorporated it into the National Music Center. So they've preserved the King Eddie and completely renovated it, and now it's once again a bustling live music venue here in Calgary. Yeah, it's always a big deal whenever you get a show there, for sure. And that was actually where our last show was in March. So yeah, that's definitely a place we always like to play at, for sure.
I love hearing stories like that, where like bringing back a place there's a place like Barrymore's.
Yeah, we have that. Our King Eddie is called Barrymore's.
Yeah, and we haven't got it. Nobody's gotten it redone yet. So we're dying for someone. There's stories of Bob Seger going there, and Kiss, and a whole bunch of different bands that were in Ottawa that played there, and it was a cool place to go. But it's not in good repair at the moment.
Nope.
Do you have a worst show story?
I'm trying to think of one here. Well, we did. There was this one show that we did a couple of years ago, and it was kind of like a benefit show to raise money for charity. So there were a lot of other artists performing, and it was just the amount of technical difficulties at that show was definitely the most we've ever experienced. It took them 20 minutes to get our keyboard working. So Jeremy, our keyboard player, was with the sound crew just hammering away on the keys is it coming through yet? No, it's not coming through. And then we'd be playing. Once we finally got performing, my mic was cutting in and out, and it was just, it was It's one that, all the guys in the band, we joke about to this day because it was almost hilarious how incompetent the sound crew was that day. But yeah, we got through it and moved on. That's that's definitely a memorable one for the wrong reasons, for sure.
Do you have a crazy fan moment you can talk about?
Well, it was interesting because last year we got to open up for, and this show was a little different than places we've usually played before and artists we've normally played with, but we got to open for a Spice Girls tribute band called Wannabe. They performed here in Calgary, but it was at a good venue, so that's why I was open to it and everything. And it was interesting because it was a very, very young crowd, which I wasn't expecting. But a lot of course, it was an all ages show, so it was a lot of kids and teens at the show, and they were all over our stuff, which I wasn't expecting. We're again very inspired by 70s and 80s music, so it was nice to kind of see a younger generation enjoying our stuff. And then afterwards they all rushed to the stage for autographs, which was pretty cool. So yeah,
Super cool.
that was an interesting show, but a good show.
Yeah, that's great. Our crazy fan would be my mom.
It's so true.
It's true. She's very supportive.
That's good.
Yeah, she like everything I post. It's like anyways, we won't get
No, it's everything I post.
Yeah, you too. Yeah, I think she's in love with you. When did it first feel real? Like, when did it sort of feel like, all right, it's real?
I think, it's interesting because it took a long time to get traction. Like, it felt like I didn't know what I was doing for a long time. And then by chance, I got to meet this gentleman in the U.S. His name's Gene Foley, and to this day, we're still working together. But Gene is he's been working in the business for probably 35 plus years, and he kind of acts like an agent. So he helps get us opportunities, and it's great because he works with all the big names you can think of. He works with Bruce Springsteen, he works with Billy Joel, U2, like he's got all the connections. And it was really cool because in 2021, when we were getting ready to work on our next song, me and him were kind of brainstorming, what can we do to make this record as big as possible? And, the idea came up of getting someone well known to play on the track because, of course, he's got connections, and he was able to get Kenny Aronoff to play drums on the song. And of course, that became our track called Dangerous Lover. And that was a really full circle moment because the first concert I ever went to was John Fogerty, and Kenny was John's drummer at that show. And so it was pretty crazy how when I went to that show, I hadn't even written a song yet. And then 7 years later, I was recording with someone who was on stage that night. And of course, Kenny, he played on all those John Mellencamp hits back in the day. He's one of the most in-demand drummers in music. So it was really cool to get to work with him. And that was kind of the moment for me that was like, maybe we've got something here. Like it's pretty cool to get to work with him. And I actually got to interview him on Guess That Record earlier this year. So that was
You should have us. You should have us on, even though we're not big famous people, but maybe just for fun, or maybe we could do it. We could do it.
I don't know. I'm a legend in my own mind.
That's true. Yeah, very true. And I'm a legend also in my own mind. And I tell everybody.
Yeah. That's the problem.
Yeah, that is an issue. Yeah, I'm just kidding.
I got an either or for you there, Jackson. So you have to pick one or the other. Because you're a singer-songwriter, I'm going to go first with Gordon Lightfoot or Neil Young.
Gordon.
Yes.
Choice.
Hockey or football?
Hockey.
Okay, that leads into my next one. Flames or Oilers?
Flames.
Okay. Well, I'm just
Oilers.
Hey, you don't know.
No.
And one last one because we already talked about it. Vinyl or CDs?
Vinyl. Yeah.
Good answers.
You done there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Great.
No, that's all I have to talk about.
No, that's really good. I thought you had more.
That was
all right. You just robbed a bank and you're getting in the car and you put something on. Say it's a cassette. Let's say it's a cassette.
Sure.
Cassette goes into the car. What song is playing as you're driving away?
That's a good question. Maybe, there's a lot of good choices for that scenario. Maybe I'll go like Shoot to Thrill, AC/DC.
Nice.
Sick tune. Love that.
What's your go-to this time, Gus?
I'm gonna go "Let's Go Crazy" by Prince.
Nice.
I was thinking of that one as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go the complete opposite direction and go "Carefree Highway" by Gordon Lightfoot.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna play like something like really slow. It would have been really funny.
If You Leave Me Now by Chicago.
Oh, nice.
If I had time in a bottle.
A little Jim Croce.
Yep. What's your take on the music industry right now?
Well, it's an interesting time. You know, I think it's I kind of go back and forth between like, you know, it would have been nice if I was, you know, my age now, but like in the 80s and you know, like when our style of music was like even bigger than it is now, but you know, and I think like also back in the day it was a little you know, easier to start from nothing and work your way up to success. You know, labels were more willing to take chances on artists and that sort of thing. But you know, nowadays, of course, it's a little tougher. There's not as much money in everything, and labels are a lot more picky about who they sign. But I also think like you know, the internet has definitely made it possible to, you know, pursue music from anywhere, which I think is pretty cool. Like, I mean, you know, I never would have thought that I would get to, you know, collaborate with people like Andy Summers and Neil Giraldo before becoming famous myself. And it's all because, you know, we can make those things happen, you know, just by sending emails and creating connections that way. So yeah, I think it's a very interesting time. That's all I can say.
Well, it's a great segue into the next question. How important is social media?
I mean, it's a necessary evil, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I probably wouldn't even be on it if I wasn't doing all of this stuff. But unfortunately, it is kind of the way to get discovered in this day and age. So, you know, it's something you got to put time and effort in towards. But I think like I've kind of had a bit of a breakthrough in the last month or so. You know, I've gotten some good advice on, you know, what to post, because I've always kind of struggled with that. Like I'm like, I'm not an influencer. I don't know, you know, how to find success with this stuff. But I've gotten some good advice, and you know, we're starting to finally get some decent traction on social media. Still a long way to go, but you know, better than it was even 2 months ago. And the podcast has completely blown up on TikTok. I've started doing these posts where I talk about like the history of a song or the history of an album. And one of those posts went viral, and we gained a bunch of followers that way. And yeah, so I think like it's not something I necessarily enjoy doing, but I recognize that you've got to do it in this day and age. So that's kind of where I am with it.
Yeah, that's kind of our look at it too, I guess.
More mine than yours. You love it.
I mean, I love it in the sense that it does help for growing, and it's fun to do. Like if you make it fun, it's fun. I know that it's a necessary evil, but I don't love that it's for musicians and for artists that they have to use it to get traction, because usually good music or good art gets out with people liking it. You know what I mean? That some artists are not getting what they should get, and some artists are getting more than they should, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
What's the biggest misconception about being an artist?
It's interesting. Biggest misconception. I think that, yeah, maybe like it's not easy. I mean, I think there probably are some people that think like, oh yeah, just, you know, write a song and record a song and put it out there. But it is just as hard as it looks. I mean, yeah, you know, recording is definitely like, it's not a quick thing you can pull off, right? Like it takes a lot of time to make a record and make a song. And yeah, like being able to cut through the noise is hard as well. So I think like it's something you have to go all in on. You can't really just do it for fun or do it, you know, halfway. Like you really have to put in a lot of time if you want to do a good job at it. So
yeah, it's true. It's a good answer.
Yep. Okay, I need to go back. Just because this is in the back of my head and I need to ask. When you interviewed Neil, was Pat there? Because I need to know.
Pat was not there.
Damn it.
It was interesting though, because that was one of the first interviews where I didn't make the pitch for it. Neil's people came to me and said, "Hey, we want to set something up," which you know, I was stunned because Neil's not only did he play on all of those big Pat Benatar records, but he played on Jesse's Girl with Rick Springfield. He, Don't Fight It with Kenny Loggins and Steve Perry. He was on that song. Like he's legit. So it was pretty crazy to get that email from his people saying, "Hey, we want to set something up." But yeah, definitely it was a memorable interview for sure. Really nice guy, and glad to have had the chance to speak with him.
That's cool. Joan Jett or Pat Benatar?
I probably Pat, actually.
There's no probably. It's Pat, and that's it.
Yeah,
I'm Joan Jett, but that's just because I'm more attracted to her. But Pat's amazing. I'm just saying.
I think they're kind of different. I mean, Joan's got a bit more of a punk vibe to her than
she
Pat.
sure does, yeah.
But yeah, they both got good stuff for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. So on the personal side, what would people be surprised to learn about you?
I think, well, I mean, you probably wouldn't, if you didn't know that I was a musician and doing all of this stuff, I think like that would probably be surprising, because I find like I'm pretty reserved when I'm not doing anything related to music or my podcast. Like I don't think, I'm not someone who, likes to go out in front of people and be all outgoing and stuff, except when I'm, playing music. So yeah, I think like that's probably the biggest thing that is maybe the most surprising about me is that I'm more introverted, yet I play music, which is kind of, I think that is how it works though. A lot of musicians tend to be like that just from what I've read. I mean, Prince was like that. I think even someone like Bruce as well. Bruce Springsteen was, from what I've read about him, he's definitely a bit more reserved off stage, and yet he can go out and just be a wild man for 3 hours every night. So it's
still can. He's like 70. He still can.
Yeah.
I think that we've talked to a lot of people, and that's certainly often they're introverted. And I think that's obsession too, because you're obsessed with what you're creating or your art too, and you're only focused on that. So you do get your energy from being not talking to people, whereas an extrovert needs the people to get that energy, right? Like I know that because I'm extroverted, Dawg's introverted, and most artists are introverted. So it's interesting that you say that because it's very true. And then I would imagine like playing live. Well, for you, let's say for you, if you like when you play live, does it take a lot to get there, and does it take a little bit of time for you to decompress after?
It's for me, it's something that I find I can get going pretty quick, and I don't really need to like psych myself up too much. I just try not to think about what's about to happen. Like, I think like when I'm on stage, I'm obviously aware that there are people in the room watching us, but I've always just kind of had the attitude of like, just got to get up there and start playing and not get worked up about the whole situation there. So yeah, no, I think for me, that's just, I don't think about it and I just go out and do it. And it was the same thing even when we played when we opened for Nazareth, right? Like, walking out on stage, of course, we were very aware of the fact that, we're looking out to 2,000 people. But in a way, it also didn't feel too different from playing to 100 people at the King Eddie. It just, I think like once you do it enough, that part of it is easy to overcome.
Yeah, it's cool.
So what do you do when you're not playing music? What are you doing?
Well, I like sports, of course. As we mentioned earlier, I'm a huge Flames fan. I've actually got my own tickets with the Flames, so I go to quite a few of their games during the season. I also like baseball as well. I just got back from Toronto. Actually, I was watching the Blue Jays. So yeah, sports is a big thing for me, and I play hockey. I do a lot of biking because Calgary is a great city for biking in the summer. So yeah, sports is definitely kind of my escape from music. That's definitely what I like to consume when I'm not working on music or doing anything with music.
Are you a goalie? I'm
not a goalie. No, I play defense.
All right, fair. Close enough. It just kind of reminds me of a goalie. That's all. I was just like,
Okay.
I did.
Goalies are way more intelligent than the rest of them, so that's why
I did. It's actually funny because I've interviewed on on my podcast, I've interviewed Kelly Rudy, and I also interviewed Devin Cooley, who's now one of the goalies for the Flames, because both of them I discovered are really into music, and so it was cool to have them on and to hear their stories about music. And Kelly, of course, he played for the Kings when Gretzky was there, so he had a lot of run-ins with musicians when he was in LA. Devin is actually, he plays piano and guitar, so he actually can play instruments, which is pretty cool. So it was both of my hockey interviews on my podcast were goalies, which is interesting.
That is. Rapid fire. What about that? Are you okay with some rapid fire?
I'm ready. Yeah.
Favorite artist right now?
Bruce Springsteen.
All-time favorite album?
Ooh, oh man, I don't know. There's a lot of choices there, but one that was very important towards setting me on this path of pop rock that we currently play was Born in the USA. So I'll say that one.
Oh, dream venue.
Probably the Saddle Dome. Although unfortunately, I don't know if we're going to make that happen because they're tearing it down after this upcoming season, and then the Flames are moving into a brand new building across the street. So I may not get the chance to cross that one off the list.
You have a time frame. Do it.
Manifest.
Yeah, that's what he's big on. Go-to pump-up song.
Well, Hell's Bells by AC/DC is another, going back to AC/DC. But we've actually, at some of our shows, sometimes, like if we're headlining and I have the pull to be able to ask the sound guy to do it, I will sometimes have him play Hell's Bells before we come out on stage just to get the band all worked up.
And the fans, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, one word to describe your music.
I'll go with nostalgic.
Nice.
Okay, what's next for you?
Well, we've got some gigs coming up this July out here in Alberta. So during Stampede, we're going to have a headlining show at the Ironwood, which I think I mentioned earlier there. And that's going to be on July 7th. And then July 19th, we're going to be heading up to play in Red Deer for the very first time at their big festival called Westerner Days. So that'll be a good one. And then on the podcast, we're just about to put out an episode with Midge Ure, who
No way.
Of course was the front from Ultravox, and he co-wrote "Do They Know It's Christmas" with Bob Geldof.
Mm-hmm.
So that's coming out. And then also, I'll mention it here, but our 50th episode will be releasing this May. And with that one, the guest is going to be Alexa Ray Joel, Billy Joel's daughter.
Nice.
And that one was cool because I, a couple of years ago, 2024, we got to go to Seattle and we interviewed Chuck Berge, who's Billy's drummer, before their show in Seattle. And then Chuck ended up bringing us to the band's after party, which was very cool. And so, Billy's people reached out to me and said, "Hey, do you want to interview Alexa?" And so, it worked out good that the 50th episode was coming up and we got her on. So just at the moment, it's just shows and podcasts.
Good for you, man. That's awesome. We ask everybody the same question at the end, and that is, and I know the answer.
No, but you don't know.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
Which decade of music of the two do you prefer, the 80s or the 90s? Yeah, I figured as much because Dawg's the 80s and I'm the 90s. But I think we've had 80s. It's like 3 in a row now.
I'm on a roll.
90s is just losing its luster.
Yeah, well.
All right. Where can people find you?
So I'll start off with the music stuff, but our website is jacksonreedofficial.com. And then we are on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Our username on all 3 of those platforms is at Jackson Reed Official. And then we're also on Bandcamp, where you can buy all of our merch. So our CDs, we got some other stuff on there. Also Jackson Reed Official, or just look up Jackson Reed and the Silverbirds and we'll be there. And then for the podcast, we're on all of the platforms, Apple, Spotify. Our website is guessthatrecordpodcast.com. And we are also on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube with the username at guessthatrecord.
Very cool. Nice. Well, thanks very much for your time, buddy. It was great chatting with you.
For sure. Yeah. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. We'll follow you along. I got to listen to this podcast.
Yep, me too.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
See how long it takes us to guess the album.
Yeah, exactly.
So do you go through when you do the albums and stuff? You can stop. That's the question afterwards.
Okay, fair.
So how do you?
Dawg Gus, Dawg Gus, Dawg Gus.